big sting operation recently on Long Island looking to stamp out prostitution, and they're doing it in part by targeting Johns. But it's what officials did after the bust that is sparking some debate, isn't it, Andrew?
Yeah, that's true, Rich. The busts themselves in Nassau County, pretty standard stuff. Police posing as prostitutes listed their services online, places like Craigslist and Backpage. Then when the clients arrived at a hotel and dropped their cash, down came the handcuffs. But in something of a departure, not only were the men arrested, but their names and photos were released and done so at a high-profile press conference designed to attract even more attention to their identities. To explain why, Nassau DA Kathleen Rice wrote in the Daily News, "To dismantle this marketplace, you've got to target those who fuel it, and you've got to make it public. For the deterrence to be real, you can't have secret arrests." Contrary to a few defense attorneys' unbelievable suggestions, we shouldn't give Johns anonymity that's never afforded to any of their less socially and financially affluent clients. That decision generated a lot of interesting and passionate responses from FiOS viewers when it was posed as the question of the day yesterday. Among them, Mike Shannon, who wrote, quote, "I think the men should sue the DA for defamation of character. The kids of these guys will never understand what's going on." A sentiment countered by Tina Doyle, among others. Is not a man responsible for his actions, therefore affecting his family. Shouldn't they think twice beforehand? Rich?
By the way, the most shocking part of the story is that guy Shannon actually put a picture of himself, used his name, and with a woman who I wonder is still with him after he made that comment. Do we just establish here, Counselor, that you get it's called getting put in the paper. Everybody knows it, whatever town we grew up in, whatever else. You don't want to be in the paper, but if you do something wrong and you're convicted, you're in the paper, right? We're looking for an exception for this one?
These guys haven't been convicted.
Right,
They've been
right,
arrested.
They did that for DWIs in Westchester years ago.
You get paid for a deal where you're in the paper, whether or not you had your day in court.
Let me tell you, with the state that Nassau County is in financially, for this Kathleen Rice to be running around with this, metaphorically beating her chest about what she's doing about this is where they're spending the tax money of a bankrupt county that can't even have a referendum to keep the New York Islanders in union.
Can I tell you something?
And
What you just did is you just ruined my fun. All right?
No, she's taking shots at defense attorneys. Come on.
Oh, here we go. Now we know what it is.
There we go. We figured out what his problem was.
Andrew, I will firmly put the crosshairs on you because you believe with Mr. Shannon that this is a cheap shot, that names of the Johns here shouldn't be put in the paper, let alone their information.
I'm not a big fan of putting the names in the paper, but I mean, O'Brien's right. The people who are arrested do get their names in the papers. There's nothing you can do about that. But Rice here is highlighting and was trying to get above the fold coverage of these names by putting them as front and center in the press conference as she did. I think, to me, that is a little unfair. It's an accusation. They haven't been convicted of anything. So they're entitled to their day in court.
She who screams loudest has the most to hide.
And I will say, for women, this probably is a little bit of fairness because there's always a lot more criminality associated with the person being solicited than the solicitor. So and you're right, they have not been proven guilty. But I do think that when as prostitutes, they get arrested. Their mugshots are up. It's public information. The Johns are often said, "Well, go about your business."
Can we just save an argument for 1 second? Let's think about the wife and kids at home. Give me a break here, all right?
One of the things in there that was amazing. That was amazing was the reason they did this was because there was an outcry from the community about crime happening around the hotels where this was already going on. So this was actually not so much. It was a created event, but at the same time, it was an area that they had a crime problem. This is the way to fight crime. So while she's sitting there trying to get things above the fold, the press controls what goes above the fold. She put the names out there. It could very well just be proactive.
Media guy.
Sexy is sexy, so this story is going to be sexy no matter what. But can we it's the world's oldest profession. In 2013, do we really think we're A, going to stamp it out with a couple of busts like this, and B, we've tried this with the drug war for years. You're never going to stop the demand.
Legalize it, don't criticize.
You can do what you can try to do to stop the supply, but you're never going to stop the demand.
Well, with all due respect, would you say that if you had a daughter?
Yeah.
I can't.
See, Rich and I, we have daughters.
That.
I don't know about the rest of the
If my
kids, but we
daughter
have
was over
daughters.
21, I wouldn't be happy with what she was doing, but it would be her choice.
No,
if you're using underage kids, that's another
inherent
story.
implicit in this is, and trust me, I'm not a bleeding heart here. We've done a lot of the subject, including with people who worked in the trade. This idea that it's some victimless crime here is just an issue of choice is so wrong by anybody who's ever worked in this, whether it be on the vice squad or people who try and get the people off the streets, how they get in these situations with these creep pimps and everything else.
That's true, but if you
So
legalize it
and
and put it
you-
into
and
the
the more you
sunlight,
You've also we're
they'll be
also
treated
not
better.
discussing for the women that are involved, is there sex trafficking involved? How young are these women?
Yeah.
We haven't
Well,
even
but
we haven't
that's
talked about
the
that
issue
either.
is the government's making
And
revenue.
the traffickers, not. This
I
seems
understand,
stupid
but
to me.
But
think it's
going
an
to your
issue.
point about legalization, in Nevada it's legal, not everywhere. In
No, I'm
certain
talking
places in
about in
Nevada.
Amsterdam.
So no, but in Nevada it's
Brazil.
legal. There's places in Nevada it is legal.
are.
It is not legal in Long Island or in New York and so
Yeah.
forth. Therefore, she's enforcing what needs to be done in the community. Why I'm defending Kathleen
Notice-
Rice, I don't know.
Notice every time
Politics
they
makes
release the names of Johns, there's this national
Yeah.
outcry. Have you ever noticed that? That whenever it's okay when the woman, let her go to
Absolutely.
jail and let her mug shot, but the moment we
I don't think
release,
the women use their real names.
yeah, I don't think so either. But the moment we release the name of the Johns, all of a sudden there's this huge outcry.
And what I love is that guy who said, and I've heard it from a few times, we got to think about the wife and kids at home. Meanwhile, this loser husband of yours is running around doing whatever. Okay, who knows what he's
One of
bringing
the-
home with him? But
That's
we're
right.
looking out for the discretion of the wife.
One of the guys here was like in his late 70s too, if I'm not mistaken, from the report too
God
at that
bless.
point.
Well, in all fairness, Elliot Spitzer did get his picture.
But Elliot Spitzer's the governor of New York. These guys aren't close to being the governor of New York.
was
There's
also
a
supposed
big,
to-
there's a
Elliot
big
Spitzer-
difference.
I know. Wait. What the Spitzer? I know what he was busted for, but what does he have to do with this?
Well,
He
was
got-
the guy
he
who
was
No,
just-
shot
I
he
know.
got-
I know. Client number 9, but what does he have to do with this discussion?
He
right
got
now?
his picture up. Johns, get their picture up.
Yeah.
Okay.
Gotta get
So
your
consistency. Consistency.
High-profile Johns, yeah, and it's
Elected
but
official
it's
is
easy
something
enough to
completely
say, hey, well, what about this loser who's cheating on his wife? You don't know what's going on in their home. You don't know what the situation is going on
There's
there.
a law. There's a law. Okay, and unless
And
you
I
might
think- I
not,
think
you
the
might not
argument is that
like
it's a
to, you might
stupid
not
law being
like.
stupidly enforced.
No, but I'm sorry. I happen to think guys that have to run to prostitutes are losers. Period. Across the board. All right, and I don't care what's
You
going
don't
on
know
at
what the
home.
dynamic is of that
I don't
household.
have to know
You
the
don't know the last
dynamic.
time the couple enjoyed marital bliss together.
it's
So you
okay
have
to
to
go
go
to
to
a
a prostitute.
prostitute?
People have needs, and people's needs drive them to act.
Hopefully they don't have to go to a prostitute. Going here.
Is Anthony Weiner the next topic now?
And even he didn't have to go to a
Elliot
pro.
Spitzer.
Welcome back,
If this is the topic,
Listen, he would have been
Elliot
better
Spitzer
off
and
doing
Anthony
it-
Weiner belong in that
People
topic.
have
I
needs.
guess,
You
huh?
go to a
putting it
bar
on
and
the
meet
internet.
somebody. You don't have to go to a prostitute. It's not the only way to get a woman.
not
But the
everybody
thing
has their
that
skills,
going
right?
back to
No,
the
but you
premise,
shouldn't have to go to a prostitute.
but the premise of the story is by putting the names of the supply that are the people providing the supply. Don't forget when the Mayflower Madam was out there and Heidi Fleiss, what was the big issue there? The black books.
Absolutely.
What were the names? The names are what add to it. When you put a name,
Now,
with
Richard, I
a
will say
crime-
this much: we never hear the names of judges that are caught up in these things, or other law enforcement personnel. It's always the regular guy. So there has to be some consistency as far as that. If the local judge is busted, we ought to see his or her picture as well.
I'm just saying, it's nice that they've stamped out prostitution in Nassau County.
No,
that
but
you're
you
not
have
going
to
to be able to
start
find
somewhere.
a prostitute
You
anywhere.
have to start somewhere. And if you think about it, I mean, remember what everybody said about Times Square and everything else? You have to try something. And I will say, every single group that we brought on, and remember the guests we've had on here about either people that were taken into sex trafficking, etc. Every group that's involved with prostitutes all support here cramping down, because this is not a vocation of choice.
You know, it's funny you say it. I live 10 blocks from Times Square. My friends' kids, when they come to visit, they want to go for a walk down by Times Square, where TKTS is and the red steps, and take a look around and take
But the
care
new
of all that
Times
stuff.
Square.
That's what I'm saying.
Not the old Times Square.
That's what I'm saying, though.
The
You
old
like
one
the
had
old
texture.
one?
The old one had texture.
when you
Great.
go to clean up,
It's from Taxi Driver.
when you
That's
go to
the-
clean
you know,
up an
that's-
area and you
that's
get
the
rid
Times
of
Square
that
I'm talking
riffraff,
about.
you add an opportunity for economic
You lose some
development.
character
You clean up a
when you lose
community, and everything else goes with it. Rudy did it in Times Square, just like you said.
We have gone off the rails, but that was the least interesting. Coming up next here, almost quarter century after the Tawana Brawley case threatened
That's
the
the old
city
Times
along
Square.
racial lines here. We are going to talk about that and that moment in history and where we are today. Stay with us.